History's like one big game of hide and seek. Some civilizations, though, they took the game a little too seriously. So in this video, let's dive deep into 6 powerful ancient civilizations that mysteriously disappeared. Number 1, the Indus Valley Civilization. Roll back the clock a few millennia and let's talk about one of the most tantalizing mysteries of history, the Indus Valley Civilization. Now, these folks weren't just known for their mysterious script, which, by the way, no one has cracked till today, making it the OG encrypted message. The Indus Valley Civilization, stretching across what's now Pakistan and northwest India, was one of the world's 3 early cradles of civilization. So if you're thinking of grand cities, complex infrastructures, and urban planning that would make modern-day city planners green with envy, you're on the right track. Now here's the kicker. While most of us are grappling with assembling IKEA furniture, these ancient folks had advanced drainage systems, multi-storied structures, and even public baths. Basically, they really knew how to live it up. The city of Mohenjo-Daro, one of their largest urban centers, was so sophisticated that it probably had better urban planning than some of our modern cities. And if that doesn't impress you, remember this was over 4,000 years ago. But here's where the plot thickens. Around 1900 BC, this sprawling civilization that was once the equivalent of New York City of its day started to decline. Why, you ask? Well, that's the million-rupee question. Some say it was due to changing river patterns. Others blamed it on overexploitation of the land. Or maybe they just collectively decided to ghost the rest of the world. Who knows? In a twist that Hollywood couldn't even dream up, despite their vastness and advances, they faded away without leaving behind any written records. So we're left with ruins, relics, and one giant ancient puzzle. Number 2, the Maya civilization. Ever heard of the Mayans? Of course you have. But did you know they were the original stargazers, timekeepers, and, wait for it, chocolate aficionados? The Mayans, ruling over parts of what's now Mexico, Belize, Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras, were like the cool kids on the ancient civilization block. These folks didn't just build cities, they constructed vast, breathtaking pyramids that would give any modern architecture a run for their money. But here's where things got really interesting. They had this intricate calendar system. It was so detailed, some thought it predicted the end of the world in 2012. Spoiler alert, it didn't. I mean, we're still here, right? Unless this is also some sort of simulation. And let's talk about their written language. They were one of the very few ancient civilizations with a fully developed one. But plot twist, around the 9th century, many of the great Mayan cities started to decline. Why? Well, scholars tossed around ideas like warfare, environmental changes, and political upheaval. Or maybe they just weren't really into urban life anymore. When the Spanish conquistadors arrived in the 16th century, much of the Mayan culture, records, and texts were destroyed. In conclusion, the Mayans, a society that gave us so much, especially the chocolates, left behind impressive structures, calendars that confused us for centuries, and a mystery as to why they sort of just pieced out from their cities. Maybe they knew something we didn't. Number 3, the ancestral Puebloans. Ready to venture into the world of the OG desert architectures and apartment complex innovations? Let's teleport to the southwestern United States. And no, they weren't just early fans of Pueblo-style architecture. Imagine living in a world without Uber Eats or Postmates and having to actually fend for yourself. That's right, the ancestral Puebloans weren't just chilling in the desert of the Southwest, they were farming it like pros, growing staples like maize, beans, and squash. Oh, and their real estate? Simply breathtaking. They built multi-storied homes right into cliffs. Talk about maximizing a view. These homes, called cliff dwellings, were essentially ancient condos with a dash of daring. I mean, who needs a backyard when you have a cliffside? Now, when they weren't building these gravity-defying structures, they were crafting some truly exquisite pottery. Hand-coiled, intricately designed, these pots were basically the equivalent of the iPhone 25 of their time. Fancy, functional, and oh so Instagrammable. You know, if they had Instagram. But here's where things get mysterious. Around the 13th century, the ancestral Puebloans just up and left. Poof, just like that. Was it drought, over farming, an ancient version of I'm out, this place isn't cool anymore? We're still scratching our heads over this. Number 4, the Khmer Empire. The Khmer Empire. Haven't heard of them? Well, ever heard of Angkor Wat? Yep, those are the same chaps. You know, just a small group of folks that built one of the largest religious religious monuments on Earth? No big deal, right? Entered the stage of Southeast Asia between the 9th and 15th century. While most of us might be impressed with a double-decker sandwich, the Khmer Empire was out there building multi-leveled temples. Their capital, Angkor, was at its peak, a sprawling urban center that might have supported up to 1 million inhabitants. So let's talk about infrastructure. While your plumbing might include fancy bidets, the Khmer Empire engineered a complex system of water reservoirs and canals, showing off their hydro-engineering prowess. And this was way before sustainable living became a cool hashtag. Now, if you think our modern political dramas are spicy, the Khmer rulers were experts at it. There were power plays, religious shifts from Hinduism to Buddhism, and back and forth tussles with neighboring empires. I mean, if they had reality TV back then, the Khmers would dominate the ratings. But as with many empires, things didn't stay rosy. There were tales of invasions, environmental changes, and of course, the ever-enticing internal power struggles. By the end of the 15th century, the empire, which once stretched from modern-day Myanmar to Vietnam, began to fizzle out. Fast forward to today, the Khmer Empire's legacy is cemented, quite literally, in the form of breathtaking Angkor temples, which, fun fact, appear on Cambodia's national flag. So if you're ever in the mood for epic ancient soap operas set in stone, you know where to go. Number 5, the Minoan civilization. Next, we're diving deep into the shimmering Aegean Sea to the island of Crete. Crete, where the sun shines bright and ancient ruins tell tales of a civilization that really knew how to party, or at least knew how to build spectacular palaces and create fabulous art. Meet the Minoans. The Minoans were a civilization that thrived around 2000 to 1400 BC and is often credited as Europe's first advanced civilization. And advanced they were, especially in the development of urban planning and drainage. Remember the story of the Minotaur and the Labyrinth? Yep, that's connected to the Minoans. Some historians believe the vast palace of Knossos with its intricate maze-like layout might have inspired that myth. Although unfortunately, there are no record of half-man, half-whale creatures. And speaking of fashion, the Minoans were way ahead of their time. Frescoes depict men and women in colorful fitted clothing, and the women sported some avant-garde hairstyles. I mean, if they had YouTube back then, they'd definitely be doing some tutorials. But much like the latest fashion trends, the Minoan civilization did fade. Around 1400 BC, their palaces were mysteriously abandoned. Some whispered tales of a massive volcanic eruption on the nearby island of Thera, which is modern-day Santorini. Others suggest invasions or internal conflicts. The exact cause remains one of history's most tantalizing mysteries. And finally, number 6, the Olmecs. Fasten your time travel seatbelts because we're zooming back to around 1400 BC. Our destination? Mesoamerica, where the rainforest teem with life and colossal stoneheads dot the landscape, kind of like Easter Island's broody cousins. Introducing the Olmecs. Dubbed as the mother of culture of Mesoamerica, the Olmecs predated the more well-known Mayans and Aztecs. This civilization was sprawling in what is now Veracruz, Mexico, and boy did they know how to make an entrance. Their most iconic remnants? Those massive stone-head statues, which we assume were their way of saying, go big or go home. But beyond their impressive headgear, or rather their impressive heads, these statues reveal nothing of their purpose or the individuals they represent. So was it an ancient celebrity, the world's strongest man winner? We may never know. Now let's talk rubber. The Olmecs were quite possibly the first folks to turn latex from rubber trees into usable rubber. Maybe they did it for games, maybe for rituals, or perhaps for the world's first ever bouncy castle? I mean, probably not, but that would be a lot of fun. However, like that one sock that always goes missing in the laundry, the Olmecs mysteriously disappeared around 400 BC. Despite their evident influence on later civilizations like the Mayans and Aztecs, the exact reason for their decline remains shrouded in mystery. Or maybe they just decided to roll those big stoneheads elsewhere. So in this video, we've taken a whirlwind tour of civilizations that had their shining moments under the sun and decided to ghost us like a bad first date. Almost like they collectively whispered that you can't solve our mysterious exits. But hey, even in their departure, they left behind rich legacies, epic tales, and a handful of head scratchers. It just goes to show, sometimes the most memorable stories aren't about how they began, but about how they mysteriously left the stage. So until next time, keep wondering, keep questioning, and remember, history isn't just about the past, past, it's about the mysteries that challenge us today. So until another tantalizing tale of mystery history with a touch of comedy, stay curious, everybody.